Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to this session where we talk about what's new in Teams integration. My name is Mike Borch-Cardona. I'm a product manager on the Business Central engineering team at Microsoft. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Monica. Hi, Monica.
Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Ahuja, and I'm a senior software engineer in Business Central engineering team.
And of course, today we're going to talk about Teams. At Microsoft, we are building business applications that are collaborative by design, connecting people to processes to data, no matter where they work. And for the last few months, we've been listening to your feedback about how we can enhance and build upon some of the investments that we've made into Teams integration over the past few years. So in this session, we're going to cover what's new in 2023 Release Wave 1. And we're going to talk about enhancements for administrators, enhancements for end users. It's all about more easily setting up access to Business Central from within Teams, but also enhancements to cards and how data gets shared within Teams within that space. We'll also share some resources with you where you can learn more about how to set up your Teams integration and how to use and utilize and make the most out of some of these enhancements. Now, Monica, we've done some really exciting things with the Teams over the past year, haven't we?
Yes, definitely. Let's start what we did in 2022. In 2022, we announced that our Business Central customers can access Business Central through their Microsoft 365 subscriptions, which meant all the users with Microsoft 365 license can access Business Central records regardless of having a Business Central license at no additional cost. This empowered our customers to unlock data across their organization through collaborative experiences. So what does that mean? This means that we never actually created a new license. We granted additional use rights to the popular Microsoft 365 subscription plans that our customers have been using. These small and medium business plans entitles customers to read Business Central data, but not write, through a simplified user interface in Business Central inside Microsoft Teams. You can see how this compares to our most popular Business Central licenses, and you can see that there is a clear progression of capabilities. So this is what we announced in 2022. But all of this access can be configured by admin only, and that administrators are in full control. The three minimal steps that are required to grant access through Microsoft 365 license are to configure the permissions for what can be accessed, to enable this feature from Admin Center, and to deploy the app for Business Central inside Teams for all the employees. Optionally, there is a step you can choose where you can select who gets access to what. But these steps have been always manual.
Now, these steps look quite straightforward, don't they? At least if you know what to do and where to go. In fact, previously, if you did a quick search within the Business Central web client, it would be pretty hard to find where to start with setting up access with the Microsoft 365 licenses. So, Monica, could you explain how have we made this easier in Wave 1 to get set up?
Yes. We have made setup easier in Wave 1 to 2023 by providing a step-by-step guide for administrators that accelerates and explains the setup steps that are needed. It not only explains the minimum setup steps that are needed, it recommends the security enhancements to provide data governance and improves the security. It also provides tips and assistance to quickly verify the setup. And this setup is also discoverable from Tell Me Search and from the Role Explorer. Let's actually go through the steps of this guide and see how to set up access with Microsoft 365 license. So I'll start by going to Assisted Setup through Tell Me Search. So I'm going to type Assisted Setup, and there will be an entry for this new guide.
And Monica, of course, you could also, I guess, type the word Teams or free access or licenses, and wouldn't that also bring up the page directly that you're looking for?
Yes, exactly. So Assisted Setup is not the only way to type. You can search for all other keywords and get to this guide. So now inside the Assisted Setup, you can see a new entry called Access Data with Microsoft 365 License. Let's just open it. So once we click on the Assisted Edit Setup entry, this is the guide. Here it explains that we can enable read-only access for Microsoft 365 license users. Let's click Next and let's go forward. Now, This step explains how administrators can configure what can be accessed. Administrators must add the entity permissions that will apply to all Microsoft 365 team members. This would mean to assign default permissions that users get when they sign in with Microsoft 365 license. To do that, we have to use the license configuration administration page. So let's go ahead and click on configure permissions. And now we end up with the license configuration page where we can assign the permission sets for this license. Please note that when we have set up this page, then all the users that have not signed in before and have only Microsoft 365 license will end up with having these permissions once they sign in into Business Central. But if you just want to try out, and if you are an evaluation company, you can just click Don't Restrict Access from an evaluation company. This means that in the license configuration page, you will end up having a permission set that has D365 reads. That is the permission set that we give to read all the entities in Business Central. Optionally, you can also configure environments and companies here.
So just one moment, Monica, if you could just pause here. This is just the usual license configuration page, right? Where admins can generally go to map permission sets to different licenses that they may be using in that environment. I just noticed that there's a few new actions on this page. Could you explain those?
Good catch, Mike. Yes, we have added new links to related tasks when configuring the license configuration page for particularly Microsoft 365 license. These include links to Users List, to Business Central Admin Center, and to Microsoft 365 Admin Center. We also suggest that adding D365 read in the notification will help you try out the access to Microsoft 365 license faster. So this is just helping out to easily set up the whole access scenario.
Fantastic. I love that we're helping admins just quickly get to other places where they need to configure things in the flow of their work here. Fantastic.
Yes.
Apologies for distracting you. Please go ahead with the wizard.
No worries. So we have done the first step, which was to configure the permissions so we can decide what can be accessed. Now let's go ahead and enable the access, which means the guide here also explains that we can enable the access on the environment, and let's click enable. So what happens behind the scene? This is now automated. Behind the scenes, you will see that if you go to the Business Central Admin Center, the switch to enable Microsoft 365 license has been enabled once you click the button. Previously, this was a manual step. Now it has been automated through the guide. We have configured starting permissions and enabled the access. The guide now explains how to configure who gets access. This is a purely optional step, which means if you don't configure this, all the users with Microsoft 365 license will get access. But if you do want to select of some of the users that should get access, even if they have Microsoft 365 license and some shouldn't, then we have to configure this step. To configure this step, we have to go to Admin Center as the guide suggests. So let's just go ahead and click on Business Central Admin Center. Here, we have an option to define the security group in the Admin Center. You first need to create the security group from Microsoft 365 Admin Center or from Azure portal to set and define the security group in the Business Central Admin Center. This security group should usually contain all the users that have Business Central license that should have access to Business Central, and all the users that have Microsoft 365 license that you would want them to have access to Business Central. So when you combine all those users, then you can define a Business Central users security group and assign it here. Once it is assigned, then the user that is not part of this group, irrespective of whether they have Business Central license or Microsoft 365 license, they will not get access to Business Central through any client. So we did all the steps. So the final step is to actually go ahead and deploy the Business Central app for Teams. And the guide here recommends how to do that. So you just have to go to the guided deployment and follow the steps, and that will be it. So let's click next, and that's it. Let's go ahead and try it out. So when we click try it out, this guide here suggests to find a coworker that has a Microsoft 365 license and does not have a Business Central license, and share a Business Central record with them in Teams. This guide also provides the links to a guided tour which helps you share a card to the coworkers. Mike and I will show you how to check if your Microsoft 365 license setup has succeeded. Let's go for a demo. So I just did a step-by-step guide to set up Microsoft 365 license. Now I'm inside Teams in a channel, and I want to add a tab so that I can rally the team in my organization to help me do the data-driven decision. Let's just go ahead and add a tab. I'm going to click on the Add a Tab button and select Business Central app from it. So this view allows me to add the list based on my role in Business Central. And here I'm just going to go ahead and select vendors. It also will allow me to have preferred views if I had views in my role for the vendors. So I'm just going to click Save. And now we have added a tab in the channel. All the team members in the channel should be able to access this view, and they should also be able to access the particular vendor entity if needed. I could have also shared a card if I wanted focus on a particular entity for a vendor. But I do have a full Business Central license. I want to see now how it works for somebody who has only Microsoft 365 license. Mike, why don't you tell us how it looks from this point of view?
Yeah, let's switch to my Teams client and take a look at the experience. So here I am in the vendor review channel, and of course I've got a tab called Vendors. I'm going to click on that. And because I'm a Teams user and not a Business Central user, typically I wouldn't have access to it, but because Monica has enabled access, now I can actually get access to my vendor list, all of the vendor details, and I can even drill into one of these particular vendors and take a look at all of those fields. As you can see, it is a read-only experience. It is a simplified experience. I have far less things that I can do in here compared to Monica, who has the Business Central license. But fundamentally, I can now participate in this vendor review discussion with the rest of the team that I couldn't do before. So tabs are really fantastic at rallying the team around that common view of data so they can collaborate on it together. But of course, tabs are not the only way in which people can share Business Central data together. Monica, what's the other way? It is, of course, sharing cards. Have you shared a card with me to the chat?
Yes, I just did.
Fantastic, I'll find it here. There it is. So you've sent a card for a specific vendor in Business Central. Excellent. Let's put that to the test again. Let's see if I also have access to all of the details now for this particular vendor. Yes, and of course I do. So here I can see again the vendor record. Again, it is a read-only experience, and again, a simplified experience. But that pretty much confirms that the setup that Monica has done to enable access with a Microsoft 365 license has in fact succeeded. Now I noticed one thing here, Monica, actually, if I can go back to the chat. So the card here does look different to the card I've seen previously from Business Central.
Yes, Mike. In this way, we have made enhancements to make the adaptive cards more compact in Teams. Card and Teams now consume less vertical space, and they leave more real estate for chat. The new layout also has the thumbnails just next to the record summary, so it's more compact and precise.
Now, it's great that I have access to all of this information, but I also know that on our Teams channel, we have folks from a different department. Let's say it's the retail department, and they probably shouldn't have access to our list of vendors here. So since they're also not Business Central users, and they will also now have access to this data, is there a way for administrators to actually restrict that by differentiating permissions? So for example, could I get a set of permissions as I sign in to access that card for the first time? And could they get a different set of permissions that is specific to their department?
Definitely, because now we have introduced a new feature in this way where administrators can manage permissions using security groups. So this allows administrators to group the users in the AAD security groups. It's the same security groups that we created before for choosing who gets access to M365 license. Now you can also use these to assign permissions. For example, in this scenario, an administrator can create a Teams user security group and add all the users that needs to have access to Business Central via Teams, and then assign the view permissions to certain entities for viewing the records in Business Central. That's pretty much what the image on the right-hand side describes. And for more details on how to do this, there is a session that we are going to refer in the end of this session.
Fantastic. So admins truly are in control here, and they have this ability to differentiate permission sets that get assigned to different groups of Microsoft 365 users. I love that. And this level of flexibility is really needed to cater for the very diverse ways in which our customers run their operations. Now, let's say you have restricted access to the people from the other department. What would they see in Teams as they try to access that vendor card details, or if they were to access the vendors tab that you showed us earlier?
Yes, Mike. We have made some improvements for our top error cases. Now these error cases are very clear and concise. They provide very clear and concise feedback, and they are in the familiar Teams design. These error cases apply to all the access denied errors, for example, if you're lacking permissions or if you don't have the right license. And they also provide the technical details that help with troubleshooting.
So as somebody who works in Teams a lot, I really do feel this is very seamlessly integrated, and it's unmistakably Teams when I see this kind of access denied error message. But just to recap here, so when a Teams user does not have permission to a particular record or a page or a specific company, the Business Central app for Teams will display this screen whenever they access the tab or whenever they access the card details. But I also heard that the card itself, so the card with those couple of fields that are on it, that sort of give you an indication of what's at the end of that record, that one is not protected by permissions, right? Everybody can see those couple of fields on the card. Is that correct, Monica?
Yes, you're right. The card in itself is not protected by permissions.
Understood. Now, we appreciate that some organizations, of course, would like to make sure they can secure that, especially if they're working in sensitive industries or they just need that next level of data governance. So, Monica, we say admins are in control. Can they control what shows up on the card as well?
Yes, from this wave onwards, they can. Because we have now introduced a step-by-step guide that provides the switch on how to hide the summary data on a card if you wish to. This is for the organization that, as Mike said, needs additional governance controls with elevated data security needs. So this is basically a simple switch that hides all the information on the cards, and it is configured per environmental level. So if you have configured the switch, this means all the users, no matter what license, no matter what permissions, they will only see the minimal compact card and would not see the summary data on the card. Let's see this guide to set up this security control for cards. So here I am again in the assisted setup, and now we will have a new guide entry. So let's just click ahead, and you can see that there is a card settings under Do More with Business Central section. Clicking on it will give you the step-by-step guide to enable this additional security control. I am going to click Next, and on this screen you will see that there is a switch to say whether you want to see the record summary on a card or not. So if you disable this switch, cards will not show the record summary, and they will show the bare minimum page caption or summary caption with the details action. This switch is on by default. So if you don't want to configure this additional settings, and if you really want to see the summary data in the cards that you have shared, then you shouldn't turn this off. So let's just go ahead, and for the sake of trying out this additional security governance thing, we will turn this off. So that's it. Now the settings has been turned off, and we can just go ahead and try it out. So before, the vendor card would look something on the left where it will have all the details about the number, balance, contact, and so on. And after turning off this settings in the card settings, then we will see what you can see on the right hand side with only page caption and then action to see the details.
Now, Monica, I also noticed that one of our VIP customers just placed an order, and I got a notification in Teams with one of these cards in it. Where did that come from? While you've been talking to me, you didn't post that to me, right?
Yes, Mike, that is coming from the Power Automate flow. I didn't post it. In this way, we have now introduced 2 new actions for our Business Central connector in Power Automate. Those actions are Get Adaptive Card and Get URL. These actions together help to use Power Automate to post adaptive cards or links to Business Central records inside Teams. As you can see on the screenshot on the right, that we have a flow for this organization that whenever a sales order is created for a VIP customer, then we get the details of that sales order and post it in a channel. It is an easy task to now automate enriching conversation with useful insights inside Teams using Power Automate.
Fantastic. So all the things we've seen today, such as the more compact cards, the ability to secure your cards, granting access through Microsoft 365 licenses, all of that also applies not just when people share cards in Teams themselves, but also when Power Automate flows post to Microsoft Teams.
Yes,
Fantastic.
definitely.
So we've seen now some of the enhancements that are coming in 2023 Release Wave 1. In the last few months, you've asked us so many great questions about how to work with Teams, how to deliver Teams integration to your customers. And we've gathered answers to common questions here in our documentation, alongside other articles explaining how to configure, how to troubleshoot, any limitations, requirements, supported scenarios, how to develop for Teams, such as how to deploy tabs with your own custom pages to your customers. So much great content that I encourage you to go and check out and read. You'll find this and so much more at this link right here. Give it a read. And of course, if you have a little bit more time, here's some other great sessions that we definitely recommend. First of all, join us as we explore automation in the session dedicated to Power Automate, where we show you in detail how flows can send those cards to Microsoft Teams. And if you're an admin wanting to sharpen your skills with securing Business Central, there's a great session where you can learn about permissions and especially how to use security groups now to create a secure environment in Business Central. And finally, if you missed it at our last launch event, rewind to our session called Accessing Business Central with your Microsoft 365 license, where we go into great detail about the value, the capabilities, and how to apply this technology to your very unique situation. Now, there's plenty more resources if you're looking to get started with Business Central, if you're looking to follow the buzz on social media, or just engage with the product engineering team. We're always interested in hearing your stories and feedback about how Microsoft can help transform your business. So on behalf of the Business Central team, we'd like to thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you in the next session.
Thank you so much.